New York, Ted, Democrats line, you're first.
Thank you. You know, you're not entitled to your own facts. You're entitled to your own opinion. Republicans are wildly inaccurate. 98% of small business fall below the $250,000 tax limit. But I had two or three quick comments that I wanted to make. There's no way Republicans are representing their constituents, not representing the people in their districts when it comes to eliminating the tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. I know some of those people with the millions and billions. They're not creating jobs. They are investing in stock markets, in properties all over the country, mountain homes, city homes. When Bush enacted tax cuts 10 years ago, it was at a time when it looked like the country would be operating and we were approaching a surplus. You know, God forbid that we have a surplus. I live my life. I operate on a surplus. I know what that is. There's no surplus anymore. The tax revenue over the 10 years from millionaires and billionaires is something to the effect of $700 billion. And it's been shown that, and I wish that Republicans need to speak more honest, but a Democrat should explain how $1 nets 32 cents on every dollar of GDP.
We'll let Mr. Mackowiak respond.
Well, don't quite know where to start on that. I think, you know, fundamentally, if Democrats felt like they were in a stronger political position, this deal would have already been done. You know, they can't get it done in the Senate right now with their strong margin that they currently have until the end of the Congress. That margin is going to be six seats shorter in about 30 days. So, you know, good policy makes good politics, and if you have an issue that you don't feel like you can message and you don't think you can win on, you can tell. And you can tell because they didn't take this issue up before the election. If they wanted to fight for so-called middle-class tax cuts, they could have done that before the election. There's a reason they didn't do it. It's because they didn't have the votes. They didn't have the votes because vulnerable Democrats did not want to be open to a tax that they were interested in supporting raising taxes.
Frederick, Maryland, Terry, Republican line. Go ahead.
Yes, I understand the Republican stance on wanting to provide tax cuts for the upper 1% because they provide jobs. But I am wondering why maybe they didn't make sure, like include language to make sure that the tax cuts would go to businesses that actually provides jobs here in America for Americans, as opposed to offshore and overseas, or hiring you know, people with visas over American citizens.
I think that's a very, very good idea, and I'd love to hear Matt's response to it. You know, one of the things that the Democrats in the Senate did, Senator Warner in particular, was he suggested that the tax cuts that would otherwise have gone to the millionaires and billionaires that the Republicans are protecting should go to cut the payroll tax for all small employers so that they could create jobs, they could hire new employees, and they wouldn't have to pay a payroll tax, so that you would actually have that money going to the people who are the job creators, the people that Matt says the Republicans are so interested in. If the Republicans had supported Senator Warner's bill, we would have those dollars going to job creation. Instead, the Republicans supported their own bill, and they supported their friends who make over $1 million and as much as $1 billion a year. Matt?
Look, I think, you know, helping employers here hire people here is the goal of everyone in Congress. No one wants to help businesses create jobs overseas. If there are smart ways to do that from a policy perspective, I suspect Republicans would support that. But again, raising taxes in a recession, you can't find one economist. Usually you can find an economist that will tell you just about anything. But today you can't point to one economist that says that raising taxes will help us create jobs. The caller before this one, the one from New York, said that 97% of small businesses do not fall on the, above $250,000. I don't know about that statistic. What I do know is half of the small business income in the country, 48%, falls into those top two brackets. Again, you're talking about family farms, you're talking about sole proprietorships, you're talking about people who may be rich sort of on paper because their businesses are part of their own personal assets. But these are the people that are going to create jobs. And again, raising taxes on them is not a good idea in a recession. And again, I go back to it. Good policy is good politics. If Democrats felt like they had an advantage to fight this, beyond the sort of what just happened the last few days in the House and Senate, you know, if they really wanted to fight this, they could have done it right before the election. They could have made it an election issue. So I throw it back to you, Steve. I'd say, why do you believe House Democrats, Speaker Pelosi, did not take up the tax issue before the election?
I think because the Democrats didn't do a very good job framing it, and I think it's because, you know, and I agree that Democrats had time to do it and they didn't do it properly. I mean, I think that the way to put this in context for people is to say, if we're going to borrow money to pay for these tax cuts, if we're going to hand our children a bill for these tax cuts, which is what we're going to do, we're borrowing money to pay for them, who should they go to? Should they go to people who make $1 million a year, as much as $1 billion a year, or should they go to families who make $250,000 and less? And you know, on the small business thing, again, I'd just go back to the fact, if you're a small business person, you pay taxes on your profits. And if you create a job, the job creation and every cost associated with that job is deductible, which means you don't pay any taxes on it. So you actually pay less taxes in a high tax code, in a high tax environment, if you create more jobs and you spend more money on employees. So I think, you know, Matt likes to say that you can't find an economist who says cutting taxes will create jobs. I can't find an economist who says that giving tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires will create any jobs. And in fact, the tax code suggests just the opposite.